So I guess we can begin. Hi, I'm Charles. I'm a software developer, got laid off 3 months ago, and I'm one of the organizers of the New York chapter of Code Coffee. Today we'll be talking about SEO for generative AI. Now, these days, people searching for things even like, give me a pizza restaurant near my house. People, you could Google that, but people are using AI for that. It's your personal preference. You may not want to do that, but whether people are doing that. So as developers, we need to adapt to this change. So that's what this will be about, and how to help your websites be more attractive to AI searches. So you'll notice many of the things we discussed are very similar to traditional SEO, but there's still some changes we need to make, and you want to be able to have SEO and GEO at the same time. So you're going to want to, when you write your website, you're going to want to use semantic tagging in your HTML. That means like having a title tag in your head and having, let's say you're writing an article, you want to have, there's actually an article tag, and then you also want to have sections marked as session. You could do all of that just with normal HTML, just div tags and whatnot, but this makes it more attractive to both SEO and GEO. Yes?
Can you explain the tagging portion?
Sure. So let's take a website like google.com. And we open up the developer tools, and you'll see these are all HTML tags. And if you open up the head tag, you will see that the title is Google. So this is one semantic tag. And then you have, let's go to the bottom. Okay, well, this isn't an article, so it doesn't have an article tag. But if you go here, this is an article I wrote. And then here, for example, this is a so here's like an article tag. This is more or less identical to a standard div tag, which you would use anywhere else, but it tells search engines and AI engines that this is indeed an article, and then it treats them differently.
Okay,
Does that answer your question? So you're going to want to have clear hierarchies with semantic tagging, as I just mentioned, and you want to break content into logical chunks. This part about chunks is going to be relevant a bit later. There's something called schema.org markup, and I'll show you that later, but basically you're giving, it's just for search engines. You're just describing what you're making, like things like the author, the date, and all that. And it's, the user doesn't see it, but search engines do. You want to have, like, let's say you have an article, you want to have the author and publish date and canonicals, which I'll get to later, but you want to have that because AI is more interested in like authority. Like they want, because they always try to cite what they're telling the user. So you want to make it easy for those citations to be made. Another thing is AI searches are very interested as what's the top. It doesn't go through your whole website meticulously, but you do want to front load key concepts. And like I said, you want to have the authorities, you want to have the publication date and stuff, but this is probably the most important part, is to have the chunks be standalone. Because when AI looks at your site, it just doesn't take the whole site at once and just do it in one go. It breaks it into chunks, and you want each chunk to be as if you could just take it on its own and it would still make sense. It would still have context. Because let's say you have an article on a given topic, and then you target both beginners and experts. You would have a chunk that's relevant to beginners. So let's say a beginner types on ChatGPT about that topic, it'll just present that individual chunk. And then the same would go for the experts. Oh. I don't know what just happened, but let's. Oh, I think my computer just went to sleep. That's annoying. Okay, we got 1 and 2. Okay. So traditionally, you would just target SEO when making your website. All you would want to do is just appear in the first 10 results, preferably the first of a Google search, and that's all you. To do that, you would use things like keyword optimization. You would look up all the keywords relevant to what you're talking about, see which ones are the most popular, and then you would basically just scribble those all over your website. Sometimes you would see a website where the author would clearly just wanted SEO, so they put the keyword as much as possible. This is what you don't want to do anymore. This is one of the changes that's actually bad for business nowadays. The other thing was link building. People would pay others. Either they would do this legitimately or they would pay other people, but they would want backlinks. You would want other websites pointing to your website. That would be how you build authority, but that's no longer as important. Nowadays, you want to optimize for LLMs, large language models, and now RAG, research augmented generation, and retrieval augmented generation, like that. And you want to do both of those. Let's move on. So in your website, you should have a robots.txt. That basically says what website, like what things like Google and AI, whether they're allowed to look at your website. They're often ignored, but you want to make this open so that you can be found, unless of course you're building something that you don't want to be found. Things that are maybe less obvious is that Google and AI systems, if there's bugs in your website or it's very slow, having a very slow website can actually hurt your performance in search engines greatly. You can do everything else right, but if your site takes a minute to load, you're not going to go very far. Like I said, you want the robots.txt to be open so that they're allowed to crawl it. People often ignore the robots.txt, but it's still good to have. And you don't want pages that are just broken. If all your website's just perfect, but you have like 1404 on one of the pages, you're going to have a problem. You want to have a clear XML sitemap, because Google, when it crawls, it looks at the sitemap and just is aware of the different sections of your website and the different pages. And you want to make your URL structure logical. So let's say you have the e-commerce store, you would want to have the URLs be obvious as to, like, you can take any given URL and someone should be able to look at it and tell what it does. You don't want duplicate content, so just like 2 pages on the same website that are the same thing. You don't want a lot of redirects, even though the user won't notice it, the search engines will. So traditional SEO was made up of 4 things. So there's the on-page SEO, which is like I just showed you, having a title tag, a metadata. So when you search on Google, the text that's after the link that's describing your website, that needs to be not empty. You actually need to fill that on, let me show you an example. So I run a web development agency. It's called Turnout Unlimited, and this right here is what's defined in the meta tag. This is the title you put on your HTML, and then this is what goes in the meta description. So if we go here and open up the code, we'll see in the head, let me just search for the title. Yeah, so here's the title, and then this is what shows up when someone Google searches, this meta description. It may seem a bit obvious, but a lot of websites don't even have this. So that's all on-page SEO. There's the keyword density, that's where people were just scribbling keywords just all over their website. Then there's technical SEO, what we just talked about, the crawlability, making your website fast. Now, there's an acronym, EEAT, experience, expertise, authoritaveness, and trustworthiness. This is a bit harder to do, but we'll get into that in a second. And just also making the content more relevant to what the user is searching for. And then backlinks, like I explained, other websites linking to you, and just having it be more popular. These last two are a bit harder to do, but this is how traditional SEO would work. Now, Google uses, what made Google famous is the PageRank algorithm. That's why it performs so well. And this is the algorithm that determined what gets shown to the user. So, as far as, I'll just say the point of the word. A simple way to look at it is just the PageRank of all the links that link to it, and then also divided by the number of links on your page. So if we're calculating the PageRank of page U, we would have the damping factor. But so basically, even if you did all your SEO wrong, none of the websites link to you, and you do everything wrong, you still have a 15% chance of being shown to you. That's the random jump probability. So even if no one links to you, you still get 15%. The damping factor is just the opposite of that, the remaining 85%. And you have the PageRank of all the pages that link to you, that's V divided by the number without that. So let's look at page B. Let's say it's just someone else's page or even yours secretly, and it just links to thousands of different websites of people who paid whoever made that website to just link to them. That wouldn't work because there's just so many links on that page, so it dilutes its credibility. So that's why it's divided. It's the amount of links to your page divided by how many links are actually on that page. Does that make sense so far? Does anyone have any questions? Okay. So no longer is it so worried about keywords and all that. It's now, I'm going to wait until the next slide for that, for the vector. So AI is a bit smarter. It's looking more into the meaning instead of just let's say someone searches for something that's related to your website, but it's not even on your website. So let me give you an example. let's say your website's all about pizza and it's just talking about pizza everywhere, but it doesn't mention Italian food. AI still knows you're selling Italian food because pizza is Italian. The other new concept that's being introduced with GEO is just the authority, whether it can be cited. You basically want to have a bibliography. Because AI is more skeptical than traditional searches are. So this is a bit mathy, I'm not going to go too into it, but it's about how all the words are being translated into numbers. And it uses cosine similarity to see how things are similar. So like I said, pizza in Italian. And it's no longer just keyword matching, whether you have a particular keyword on your site. So what I'd recommend is when you're building your website is to use AI to help you make it more optimal for AI. Because that way you can just quickly, you can have it make the page and then you could say, does this page perform well for AI searches? Oh yeah, you also want to serve multiple expertise levels. You want to have beginners and experts so that those chunks, when it breaks down your website into chunks, it has a chunk to give to beginner questions and a chunk to give to expert questions. So there's a lot of tools to help you do this. I'm going to show you some of them. The first is the classic Google Search Console and Google Analytics. That's for traditional SEO. So you would have, it'll show you like who's searching for your website and whether all your pages are indexed. So let's say you had a broken robots.txt that says Google can't look at it, then none of these pages are indexed. But you can also, Google has crawlers, so it'll eventually find your site, but if you want to speed that up, you can actually tell Google Search Console, here's my site, please include it in Google Search. Another thing you can do is rich results text. So remember how I showed you on my page it basically had a bibliography? It's looking to see that this is there. So far what it sees that I had the article tag and it's fully aware of what's on the site. The other thing you can do there's something called Lighthouse. It'll look at your site and it'll figure out like what's wrong with it, areas you can fix. Includes performance, accessibility for people who have disabilities like blindness, and also the SEO and such. So this could be improved, but it has 100 on SEO, so that's good. Let's see what it looked at. It saw that like the correct semantic tagging was used, and so it says these checks ensure that your page is following basic search engine optimization. This doesn't include GEO. Yeah. That thing I showed you earlier was called JSON LD. I forget what LD stands for, but what the Google Rich Results Tester basically just checks that. Another good tool is just using something like Claude or ChatGPT to say like, how can I improve this? So here's some takeaways. SEO isn't dead. You just have to adapt to it. Now we're more focused on making the site more semantically clear. The hard part is now you need authority. It's no longer just backlinks, but becoming a credible source. And a lot of it is actually the content. Right? You actually need to make your content more useful. I know that's kind of saying, like, oh, be better, but it kind of is. I wish there was more I can tell you about that. And a lot of it may just seem bad, like Google just made it, so it's really only showing you the top 10 results. This is hurting small businesses and many of us. So they are kind of working against us. That's basically the same thing, you just really need to adapt to this. This will be helpful in the activity we're about to do. This is the JSON LD schema. It's a script tag that you put in your HTML. Context is just saying you're using the most popular one, which is schema.org. Type, it's a tech article, headline, description. This author part is very important because it wants credible sources. Don't forget to include the dates, and you're allowed to add keywords. This is really valuable, but you can't just put all the keywords in there. That will hurt you. There might even be a maximum, I'm not sure, but just choose the right ones, and there can only be a few. And then, like here, we're saying it's an intermediate article, so that's pretty obvious. Like, it'll help deliver your site to the targeted audience.
I'm sorry, what other options are there? Intermediates?
Let's look.
Is this related to addressing it to both experts and... What does it relate to, intermediates?
Like, who should be reading it?
The audience.
Yeah. So let's use the pizza example. Like, intermediate would be someone who eats a lot of pizza and knows what they're talking about, but expert would be like a pizza chef.
Okay. Then.
So all of these, you can go on schema.org and see what they mean. This one means, I'm trying to see whether it has to be like something, like a specific list. But so it seems like you could put anything in there. Just make it relevant, because this one, it's saying educational level US grade 2. So I don't think there's, yeah, so it could be text. You could even put a URL there, but I wouldn't recommend that. But then there's also a set of defined terms. I'm probably not going to be able to find this quickly, but just the lesson is if you're confused about one of those tags, just go to schema.org. Any other questions on this?
I have a question. You mentioned authority, or having an authority. What would you suggest? To his question, in terms of intermediate, would it be smart to write 3 different articles or 3 different versions of the same article, or a shorter version, longer version, in order to?
Wait. So this question was about the proficiency level in these tags, but you're talking for authority. It's a good example would be like Google has the highest authority, basically, because everyone uses it. There's lots of links all over the internet that link to it. So backlinks are from SEO, and that's still important.
Right.
But part of authority now is just having good content. Because AI can tell whether you're just writing gibberish.
Yeah.
SEO wasn't able to do that because it didn't have that thinking aspect to it. So the important things are to make your content for diverse audiences like beginner, intermediate, and expert, and then also having an author. So like here we're saying who the author is, and you could, like, let's say you put like PhD in pizza here, then now it adds some authority. So now, if you have your laptop, we have an activity. If you don't, I encourage you all to like share and pair program. Basically what we'll be doing is this URL, I've shortened it, will have a article that basically doesn't have everything we just discussed, and now we're going to add things. For example, the first thing I'd recommend adding is this. This is actually for this. I basically gave you some of the answer already here. You want to add that to it and just see what else is wrong with it, like the vague sections, clarify terminology, and then at the end I'll show the answer. Oh, did no one bring that? If not, we could just kind of do it as a class, and I'll do it on here, I guess.
I have a question. Is this the same URL or is it a different one?
So this one at the bottom is the exercise, and then the one I just accidentally showed was the answer key. Yeah, I really need to keep this novel stable. Sorry for the technical difficulty. Now it's not showing much.
You know you're in low in battery, right?
It's plugged in and the surge protector is on. I don't know what's happening. It's just not talking. They really don't want me to present.
Quick question, do images matter at all?
They do. It's good to have an alt tag and just add, like when you define an image tag, you could also write what an alt tag is to say like what the image is. Because when it's looking at your website, it's not going to like process the image itself. So you want to have that metadata. Okay. I was hallucinating. It just came up, right?
Probably because he's standing.
start just like plugging HTML.
Let me help you out.
It keeps like flashing it.
Like he's doing this?
So like it'll show the content for a second and then go away.
Alright guys. Ready to come back?
In a pinch, can I just use that HDMI cord?
Yeah. If you want, you can do how you did the first time.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. So sorry about this, guys. What's up? What? Does anyone have any like general questions about that?
If you had more than a single language, could that interfere with something? Any tips on that?
You can specify what languages it is in the HTML. So I think if you just have the correct one there, you're good to go. So like, let's say you put Spanish there, it would serve it to Spanish users. And AI also works with that. So just put that tag and then you're good to go. That's what a lot of this is just knowing what the correct semantic tag to use and use it. Thank you so much. So, here we have a unoptimized website. So what's the first thing we're going to do to make this? Like, what are we missing from the head tag? It's very important. What?
The title.
We do have the title there. I know it's hard to say.
Can you zoom in a bit?
Yeah, that's a good idea. But yeah, that basically is the first thing. So let's get into this.
Okay, thanks.
So let's just go through the whole document. So you mentioned about languages. When you make the HTML tag, you just want to put the desired language here. We have the title here. We have the styling of the page. And then we have the body, where it's just divs, H1s, and P tags. Is everyone familiar with all those tags? And that's really it. So we have the title. What's the next thing?
So I'm wondering, like, if the JSON that's in that file there's no like script tags here to take it up. Does that mean that those are disconnected from each other at this point, and that's affecting how the web page is going to get?
Sorry, can you repeat that one more time?
The JSON that's in that file.
Package.json?
Yeah, like that's not, there are like no script tags in this HTML. So does that have any effect on how this page will get picked up if we're using that JSON schema?
So the package.json doesn't reach the user
Okay.
or the AI or the search engine.
Okay.
So that's just for how Node can run this website.
Okay. Okay.
But that is a good point, because we are going to do something with JSON. Does anyone remember?
Script engineer.
Yeah, that script I showed earlier. So we would basically just put this in it. This is an image, so I can't really just throw it in there, but it is in the solution. We put this in the head of the document. And then, what else can we do here in the body? Yeah?
You had like an article.
Correct. What we would do is we would put, so you can decide. We would put an article here and then wrap the whole thing in it. So let's look up the article tag, because there's other things we can put in there. Oh, I lied. Basically, you just put, you could give it this class browser here. So you could basically, it's just a div, and you would just do everything you would treat a div normally, you just call it article. Then the rest of what we would be doing is changing the content to be less vague, and yeah, that's really it. So
For semantic HTML, an article's got a specific definition, right? Which is it's basically a standalone component, or not a component, but a standalone.
it's a fancy div.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a div that tells the search engine and AI that it is indeed an article. I mean, it's kind of simple, but it ends up being important. Yeah?
So, just to clarify, earlier you mentioned that like the old trick of like adding buzzwords to make it more search engine friendly is now an hindrance because AI will kind of interpret that as like a baby or
You basically have to make your website more legitimate. There's only so much we can do with coding, but it's basically what I just showed you. But the rest has to actually be more like authoritative. It needs to like higher quality content because the traditional search engines, it had no way of knowing, like I showed you the algorithm, it didn't really factor in the actual quality of the website. Now you literally, like I wish there was some magic trick I could tell you to make the website just have higher quality, but you really just need to put more effort into making it. So if you want to think of it as like, how can I make the AI treat this as a citation? It's almost like you have to, it's like you're in academia, so you need to say who the author is, what their qualifications are, and stuff like that.
Can you specify whether it's an academic, scientific article, or can you be more specific about what article? Can you define what article it is? Like maybe scientific.
I don't understand your
Can
question.
you have extra tags to say, okay, this is a scientific article?
That would go,
Or is it just a keyword?
there's probably more of these, but this isn't every tag you could put in that. You'll need to go to schema.org. But you would basically say in the author, instead of tech writer, you would say like PhD and whatever. That's about it. Also, you would probably say something about it in the keyword section. And then, since it's academia, you would probably put education level, like expert. So, I'm going to put the solution up for a minute, so if anyone wants to grab that. And then finally, if you want to connect with me, here are all my socials. I also have a YouTube channel, and one of the videos on my YouTube channel is like a 4-minute condensed summary of what I just taught you.
You reply to the comments on YouTube?
What?
You reply to the comments on YouTube?
Yeah, that's because I only have 12 subscribers.
I'm about to have 13, my friend.
But other than that, to summarize, SEO just got harder. It's less about tips and tricks that you can just apply to the HTML of your page, although we have a few. It's more about just becoming more authoritative. So it's really getting harder. The stakes are harder, and thank you so much for coming and for bearing with me through the technical difficulties that we have with the TV. And in general, just thank you for coming to Code and Coffee. I love you guys. I've been an organizer for 4 years, and I've met so many people and I'm still improving my public speaking skills, so thank you for bearing with me for that. Yeah, thanks.